You have no business sense, my father declared over Saturday brunch, not for the first time. We were at the oceanfront terrace of the Pearl House in Miami, the February sun bouncing off the turquoise waves. Look at Daniel here, he continued, motioning toward my older brother. Already senior VP at Gulf Atlantic Bank at 29. Meanwhile, you're still tinkering with that little app business. Daniel grinned, flashing his Rolex Rollercase bonus gift, and leaned back like the king of finance. I speared a piece of avocado toast, hiding my smile. If only they knew my little app business, Orion Systems, had just finalized a $6.2 billion acquisition, buying out Gulf Atlantic Bank's entire digital division. The tech fad will fade, my mother chimed in, taking a sip of champagne. You should take that junior strategy role Daniel offered you. At least it's secure. I pictured the signed acquisition contract in my downtown office, complete with the clause transferring Daniel's whole department under my company's control. The announcement would drop Monday morning. Speaking of work, Daniel cut in, we're meeting our biggest client tomorrow. Dad, you should join. Show them how real finance works. My father, who ran a boutique consulting firm, one my shell company had quietly bought 6 months ago, puffed out his chest. Perhaps I will, he said. Show these tech kids a thing or two. Who's the client? Orion Systems, Daniel replied smugly. Some startup that lucked into cash during the crypto boom, probably some awkward programmer who's never worn a tie. I nearly choked on my coffee. Orion Systems, my company, wasn't just another tech darling. It was now a multinational fintech powerhouse, quietly modernizing the old banking giants. Gulf Atlantic Bank was just the latest prize. They're sending their CEO, Daniel added, probably clueless about real money. Mom patted his hand. Well, not everyone has your business acumen, dear. Some people, she glanced at me, are better suited to small projects. I thought of my 42nd floor office in Orion Tower, my executive team prepping the press release, and the stunned look Daniel would wear when I walked into tomorrow's meeting as his new boss. How's consulting, Dad? I asked lightly. Fantastic, he said. 3 big clients this week. He didn't know those clients came from me, part of my quiet takeover plan. Tomorrow, they'd see just how much business sense I really had. And your little app venture? Daniel smirked over the rim of his espresso. Still camping out in that co-working space? Actually, I owned the co-working space, and the building it was in, and 2/3 of the block. Getting by, I said lightly, swirling the last sip of my iced coffee. Speaking of work, I added, I should go. Big meeting tomorrow. Barista interviewed? Daniel snorted. Something like that. I slid on my thrift shop Casio. Actually a custom $95,000 Patek Philippe disguised in a cheap case, and stood to leave. Take the strategy job, sweetheart, Mom called after me, before your startup collapses and you have nothing. 5 minutes later, I slipped into my Bentley Bentayga, parked discreetly around the corner. Back at my condo, I traded jeans for a midnight blue Armani suit, Louboutin pumps, and my actual diamond-studded Rolex. My phone buzzed. Ms. Vega, my assistant, texted. Merger contract signed. Press release queued for 9 a.m. Perfect. Daniel's big client meeting was at 10. Another text came in. Your father confirmed he'll attend Gulf Atlantic's presentation. Even better, they'd all be in the same room when their hierarchy toppled. Is the deck ready? I typed. Yes. First slide lists Orion Systems' full acquisitions including Gulf Atlantic's digital arm and Vega Consulting. I smiled. 4 years they'd dismissed me as a dreamer, plain entrepreneur. Tomorrow they'd see what real business acumen looked like. Monday, 9:45 a.m. I stood in the private elevator of Gulf Atlantic Bank's Brickell headquarters, my reflection gleaming back from the polished steel doors. The Orion Systems pin on my lapel caught the light. Beside me, my CFO Michael Chin scanned his tablet. Stocks are up 32% since the announcement. Your brother's been calling his broker all morning, and your father? Arrived early, holding court about his expertise. Michael smirked. Should I tell him Vega Consulting's been ours for 6 months? Not yet, I said. That surprise belongs in the presentation. The elevator opened onto the executive floor. Through the glass, I saw the boardroom, packed with Gulf Atlantic's top brass. Daniel stood at the head rehearsing his pitch. Dad sat front and center, already commanding the room with his booming voice. They've set up quite a performance, Michael remarked, scrolling through his tablet as we stepped off the private elevator. Your brother's presentation claims Gulf Atlantic will educate Orion Systems on proper financial management. I adjusted the lapel of my Armani jacket. Perfect. Let's show them what inexperience really looks like. The glass-walled boardroom went still as we entered. Daniel's rehearsed smile flickered. He'd clearly been expecting a 25-year-old in sneakers and a hoodie, not a power-suited woman exuding authority. Welcome to Gulf Atlantic Bank, he said quickly, regaining composure. I'm Daniel Vega, Senior VP of Digital Strategy, and you are? Isabella Vega, I replied evenly. CEO of Orion Systems. My father's eyebrows shot up at my surname, one I'd made global when I founded the company. Vega? Any relation to... Let's begin, I cut him off, sliding into the seat at the head of the table. I believe you have a presentation prepared for us. Daniel launched into his deck, peppering it with overly simplified explanations of risk analysis and capital flow. I let him run for 10 minutes before raising my hand. This is interesting, I said, but perhaps we should address the real reason we're here. He smiled condescendingly. Of course, we can slow down if the terminology is too complex. Oh, I understand perfectly. I glanced at Michael, who tapped a button on his tablet. The room's screens lit up with breaking headlines. Orion Systems acquires Gulf Atlantic Digital Division. Fintech giant expands global portfolio. Wall Street reacts to Vega's latest multi-billion-dollar move. Daniel's clicker slipped from his hand. What acquisition? The one that makes me your new boss, I said calmly. Effective immediately. Dad shot up so fast his chair clattered backward. Isabella, what is this? This, I replied, advancing the slides, is business, the kind you said I didn't understand. The display filled with Orion Systems portfolio, market cap, and acquisition history. In the corner, Vega Consulting, my father's pride and joy, appeared under our subsidiaries. That's my company, he stammered. Was your company, I corrected. We acquired it 6 months ago through a holding firm. Those 3 new clients you bragged about last week? They came from us. Daniel's voice cracked. But you're just a startup founder. Michael stepped in smoothly. Actually, Ms. Vega built one of the world's largest tech conglomerates. Gulf Atlantic's digital arm is our 7th acquisition this year. I leaned back, savoring the silence. Now, shall we get to real business? If you want to see what happened when the boardroom doors closed and how my family reacted after the meeting, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. The boardroom rippled with whispers as my family's carefully crafted illusion collapsed. Daniel's $12,000, its Italian briefcase, once flaunted as proof of his superiority, now looked like a cheap prop next to the understated watch on my wrist, worth 3 times as much. Now, I said evenly, let's address the restructuring. Michael stepped forward, handing out leather-bound folders. Inside was the new organizational chart. Daniel's name was nowhere to be found. You're firing me? He asked, voice cracking. Offering you a different opportunity, I corrected. Junior Strategy Analyst's Singapore office. You suggested I take that role once. Now you can show me what I missed. Across the table, my father rifled through his packet. Your consulting contracts will be honored, I assured him, under new management. Starting with a full audit of your client relationships. You can't do this, Daniel barked. Dad, tell her she can't. Actually, she can, Michael said coolly. Mrs. Vega holds controlling interest in both companies. The paperwork was finalized last week. I rose, smoothing my jacket. You'll have time to review the documents. HR will be in touch about transition packages and new assignments. At the doorway, I paused. Oh, and Daniel? Your prize Panerai watch. I own the parent company now. I lifted my own, no longer hiding it behind a bargain case disguise. Meeting adjourned. In the elevator, Michael glanced at his tablet. Your brother's already called his lawyer. Your father's attempting to access the consulting firm's accounts. They were frozen an hour ago. And your mother? Still at lunch at her country club. Let her enjoy it, I said. The club's part of our hospitality portfolio now. She can have one last meal before her membership's revoked. 1 month later. From my 42nd floor office in Orient Tower, I reviewed the media coverage the press had dubbed the Gulf Atlantic coup. Headlines from the Wall Street Journal still made me smile. Tech visionaries' family drama reshapes Miami's financial power map. Mrs. Vega, my assistant buzzed over the intercom. Your mother's in the lobby. That's the 8th time this week, Michael noted without looking up. Shall I call security? No, I said, turning toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. Send her up. When she arrived, she looked smaller, without the designer armor, without the sun-kissed glow of the club, and with silver roots creeping into hair that was once perfectly styled. Her outfit, bland slacks and a wrinkled blouse, probably cost less than the Mont Blanc pen on my desk. Isabella, she began, but her words faltered as her eyes swept across my office. The panoramic view over Biscayne Bay, the quiet hum of power, the understated wealth she'd never acknowledged. We need to talk about. I gestured toward the Italian leather chair across from me. Worth more than her car. Your brother, he's considering the Singapore position. Good. He'll start at entry level, no shortcuts. But his experience got him rejected from 3 interviews last week. I cut in. Amazing how quickly doors close when you can't back up your bragging. Her hands twisted in her lap. And your father is under investigation by our audit team, I said. Seems his business expertise included creative accounting. He was protecting the family name. No, he was committing fraud. The only reason he's not facing charges is because I buried the evidence. Her shoulders sagged. The country club board voted you out last week, she said quietly. I know, I own the club now. Her voice cracked. Why are you doing this? We're family. Family? I turned my monitor toward her, displaying archived emails. Like when you told the bank not to fund my first startup? Or when Daniel accidentally tanked my job interviews so I'd learn my place? We were trying to protect you. You were protecting your hierarchy, the perfect family image where Daniel was the business prodigy, and I was the cautionary tale. My phone buzzed, an update from the audit team. Dad's consulting firm had years of hidden losses buried under inflated invoices and phantom clients. Your father needs help, she tried again. His reputation is exactly what he's earned, I replied, sliding the audit results toward her. He spent years telling me I had no business sense while running his company into the ground. Consider this a lesson in irony. And Daniel, she asked. Singapore is his chance to learn business, not just talk about it. He has potential if he drops the entitlement. She rose, straightening her off-the-rack blazer. You've made your point. You're successful. We were wrong. Can we go back to being a family? We can try, I said, but on new terms. Honesty, accountability, and no pretending to be something you're not. Starting with this, I said, sliding the folder toward her. She opened it, and the color drained from her face. Inside was everything she'd worked to hide. Secret credit card debt, 2 mortgages she'd concealed from my father, and the quiet loans she'd taken against Daniel's trust fund. How did you... the banks now, remember? I leaned back, watching the truth settle over her like a weight. You have 2 choices, I continued. Tell Dad the family's real financial situation, or I will... You wouldn't. Try me. I stood, our reflections meeting in the floor-to-ceiling windows, hers shrinking, mine steady. Sunday brunch. 1 week. Bring the truth, or I'll bring it for you. She left without another word. Michael returned moments later with updates. Daniel's accepted the Singapore role. Your father's agreed to the audit, and your mother just emptied her hidden account. I glanced at my phone, watching the transaction alert scroll across the screen. Freezer access to the others. Already done. He hesitated. The family estate. Foreclosure is moving ahead as planned. They can't afford it anyway. Haven't for years. I checked the time. What's next? Board meeting at 2, integration team at 3, and Daniel's farewell dinner tonight. Cancel it, I said. He needs to learn that private jets and Michelin restaurants aren't entry-level perks. That evening, I stood in my penthouse, watching Miami's skyline ignite in gold. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Economy class to Singapore? Really? Welcome to actual business, I replied. First lesson, earn your luxuries. Another text, this one from Dad. The audit team wants 10 years of records. Better start digging, I wrote back. Truth time, remember? Mom hadn't called since her visit. She was likely still trying to figure out how to explain 2 decades of smoke and mirrors finances to my father. Years of appearances built on borrowed money and hidden debt. Ms. Vega, Pie House AI announced, your brother is here. Which one? I asked. The middle one. The only sibling who'd stayed out of the power games, choosing academia over business. The only one who had ever truly believed in me. Send him up. The elevator doors opened, and Lucas stepped out, still in his tweed jacket, holding a chilled bottle of champagne. Heard about Mom's visit, he said with a faint smile. Thought you might need this. Join me, I said, and for the first time all day I relaxed. I gestured toward the balcony. Lucas and I stepped outside, the warm Miami breeze carrying the hum of the city, so much of which I now owned. They'll never forgive you, he said at last. I know, I replied, but maybe they'll learn from it. I took a slow sip of champagne. That's the hope. Sarah called me, he continued. Asked about Singapore's startup scene. She actually sounded curious. Good, I said. She's got potential, if she's willing to earn her place. And Dad? You'll either learn how to run an honest business or retire in disgrace, his choice. Lucas nodded. Mom's afraid you'll expose everything. I will if she doesn't, I said. No more facades. The family name needs reality more than reputation. He studied me. I never bought into their act. Why? I asked. He shrugged. Saw through it, I guess. Like you did. I just chose to walk away instead of taking over their world. And now? He clinked his glass against mine. Now I get to watch my brilliant sister show them what real business looks like. My phone buzzed. Sarah complaining about her economy class ticket, Dad panicking over audit demands, Mom likely discovering another frozen account. I silenced the notifications. They'd figure it out eventually. Success built on substance, not show. Business built on skill, not swagger. Family built on truth, not pretense. And if they didn't? Well, I owned their world now. Lesson learned. 1 week later. Sunday brunch. This time it was held in my penthouse. The new reality was settling in. Sarah Skyped from her modest apartment in Singapore, tired but engaged, talking about market research. Dad sat with the audit reports, finally looking at numbers without spin. Mom stayed quiet, a financial literacy guide replacing her usual fashion magazine. Lucas graded papers in the corner, occasionally glancing up to give me a knowing smile. The old family facade was gone. Something genuine was taking its place. Isabella, Mom said softly, those credit counseling sessions you suggested? They're helping. Progress one truth at a time. The future was still unwritten. But at least now, they were reading the right book. And I was the one who'd written. I've fought for every inch of ground I stand on today, and I know many of you are fighting your own battles. At work, in business, or within your own families. If my story resonated, tell me in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, or the moment you prove someone wrong. Your words remind me why I keep pushing forward. And remember, never let someone else define your worth. Build on skill, not approval. Stand firm in truth, not appearances. If you believe in resilience, accountability, and rewriting your own story, subscribe so we can keep winning together.